Hey everyone, nice to meet you. My name is Yaroslav and I'm the founder and the CEO of YardHub. We're a Web3 venture studio, and what we do is actually we ideate, conceptualize, create, incubate, accelerate, and scale up projects, obviously focused on Web3 and everything connected with blockchain, gaming, DeFi, etc. So today I want to talk to you about incubating a play to earn, or how we now love to say about games, play and earn. So why that shift is important is that the first games that actually make this genre popular were more like like farming stuff, trying to mimic as a game, but that's super boring and not something that you really love to play every day if it's not bringing you any money, any profits. And while play and earn is about giving that sense of entertainment and immersive experience that good games give to their users, and that's where when play and earn concept looks a bit more attractive in terms of its business perspectives. To start with this topic, I will mostly talk about incubation, though we do think that incubation is only a small part of growing a project. After incubating the idea, you really need to connect the project to various various potential investors, partners, create a community for it, and after creating the first draft of the project or the game, you need to accelerate it. But incubation is a very important part, because it really creates the outline of how your project is going to develop, game specifically. To give a context about incubating a play-to-earn game, I would say, if maybe a surprising thing, but it's not that different from incubating any other type of projects. You do need a very fulfilled and very dedicated and very focused entrepreneur or project lead that is pushing the project forward. And you do really need to avoid all the basic mistakes that different projects, different types of projects do, not only the games. When we talk about those mistakes and problems, it's like poor budgeting, it's poor organization of product development, project developments, not the absence of proper planning, mistakes in choosing who to hire, who to fire, actually organizing the appropriate people into a proper team, and of course actually placing the right things coming after each other. So where to start, how do you continue, where you go from there, and why we deem us as a venture studio as an ideal co-founder, because what we do, we actually allow the entrepreneurs to focus on the product, focus on their idea, while we handle all the back office and all the fundraising stuff that usually distracts people from building what they need to build. So there are some unconventional things about blockchain gaming. Of course, we all know that the video gaming industry as is super profitable and is booming, especially the great boom came back to 2020 when the pandemic hit the world, and people actually spent a lot of time at home, obviously playing a lot. And blockchain games are now taking the fair part of that market. It's still relatively small. It's like $3 billion in gaming NFTs is not much if you compare the volume to the classic gaming market. And that's why we are very bullish, and a lot of our founders are very bullish on and investors, of course, are very bullish on the blockchain gaming perspectives and future. And as we'll look into that future, we do see a lot of classic gamers, classic users coming to this niche, because when you have the opportunity to play very interesting, a very high quality with great game design, when you have the opportunity to play that title And at the same time, you do own all the in-game assets. You can trade them, and whenever you are bored with that game, you can just, like, sell whatever you have and switch to another game, and maybe even sell, with some extra stuff that makes it even more compelling. And what blockchain games are actually paying for, they're paying for your time. They're paying for the gamer's time. Those who spend a lot of time and put a lot of effort into blockchain games can make more than those who don't. But even those who don't still make something, and that's very different from the classic games, where the money only goes in one direction, right? From your pocket to the game developers, to the game publishers, which is not that bad, but that's that that lacks a bit of fairness that blockchain gaming has. So when we talk about idea, that's actually from what all incubation processes do start. Why idea is important and why idea is not that important. Of course, the compelling and interesting idea is actually super crucial to build a good game, but it's not enough. There are a lot of I've seen a lot of brilliant ideas that were poorly conceptualized and poorly executed, and even that great idea actually happened to result in a very poorly designed and not that funny to play game. The good thing about Web3, and that's how here the whole industry is different from the classic video gaming and board gaming, obviously. In board games and classic video games, you do work on the title, and then you make a release, and then if the game balance was poorly designed, if there are some flaws in game economics and other mistakes, you can't fix it. I mean, like in board games, this obviously you need to print out the new the whole new supply of those games, and in video games you need to like work on those add-ons and let people download and install it. And the problem is that you cannot test those ideas in early stages, and that's what Web3 really allows you to do. You can conceptualize everything. You can either build an MVP, or you can even skip building an MVP. You just need to describe your idea really in details. You should explain to your potential players what you're going to build, how it's going to work, and then you can start like building a community. You can go to the existing communities and ask them, okay guys, I'm thinking of building this. What do you think about it? What do you think about it? Would you play? Would you maybe purchase some NFTs? Oh, by the way, we can sell you some NFTs right now, and that will give you some like extra perks when the game is released. One of the mistakes I mentioned before when ideating a game is not thinking in advance of how this thing gonna look like, in the future. It should really be worked through at the very beginning, because that's actually about the game plot as well. Because if you don't realize from the very beginning how it's going to evolve, how it's going to unfold, you can really make some very serious mistakes on the game design level at the very beginning. And as you unfold the game, as you start adding new features, you suddenly realize that your basic tokenomics that you have planned from the very beginning, it just doesn't work, because you're adding some new stuff that conflicts with the stuff that you already executed. And you can't remove that one because, let's say, you already had your first NFT drop or airdrop or whatever, right? So users already own those assets. And if you rebalance them drastically, people may lose confidence in your project, and they will say, okay, I was purchasing that NFT because it promised that it's going to have this utility and this role, and now you're telling me it's not. So what I got to do with your NFTs? And that's where the problems can really come up. So very important to think in advance of what you're building. You shouldn't do that in like utmost details. It's impossible. You can't imagine where you will go in the future, but maybe the most general outline, So these are the basic assets. They are interact this way. It will be super useful. So now going to the practice. You should really spend a lot of time to plan. Lots of mistakes are made when people try to execute things super fast, and they think that planning is something you can do later. I mean, like, the market needs the product. They want our product. They want us to show them. They want us to launch it. If you don't have your clear roadmap for at least a year, that will bring you to problems. That's for sure. And this is not only about the product design and the game plot that I was telling you about during the previous slide, but that's business-wise as well. Many of the games, of the play-to-earn games that we see on the market right now, are built around the notion that there will be constant cash inflow from investors. So I wouldn't call it a Ponzi scheme, but it's more like, you do need a lot of new players coming into the ecosystem and hyping up the assets price and token price for that economy to stay sustainable. But the problem is that this business model is contrary to sustainable. It's unsustainable. You really need to think about how your project, because it's business, right? You're running a business. And when you're running a business, you should really think about how you will get to positive cash flow. You can't live on initial investment money. You can raise investment from the fund, from family and friends, wherever. You can sell some NFTs or tokens and get some money from the market, but that money will not last forever. And when it's over, you either need more money from investments, which brings a lot of, like a lot of questions and a lot of, like concerns sometimes, because, well, you can bump into a market like we are experiencing right now, where there is no, like easy money on the market. A lot of Web3 projects, not only games, they do struggle with raising their rounds because everyone's scared. Funds got tracked with Luna UST stuff. And if your project doesn't make money, you've got problems. So first, plan in advance. What is the economy behind? So when your game is up and running, how will it generate money? Would it be commissions? Would it be selling some, like premium benefits or premium assets or something like that? Or maybe you will take some, like part of the tokens and sell it on the external market to fund your operations. Or maybe you will be, like selling some membership access, whatever. You should think about it. Because if you don't, okay, you raise money, then that money is over and you're done. You should better avoid that. The same is true for the tokenomics. These days, I've seen a lot of games building their tokenomics around the idea it should look very attractive to the investors, to the private investors, to the seed investors, all those funds and launch pads, whatever. The problem is, again, that, okay, you may cater to those and they're great with purchasing your tokens because it looks really attractive to them. But then your game is launched and people are playing, and then those early stage investors still start dumping their tokens to the market, right? And what happens is that your token price or your assets, NFT assets price, start falling, not say free falling, and your users and your players start exiting as well, trying to save at least something. And that's that death spiral that may be the last for your project. So I'm not saying you shouldn't think about the tokenomics and your offerings being attractive to the investors who will give you the initial money, I mean, like funds or guilds or whatever, but you should really try and balance those. Let's say you've got that game, you've already had that concept. What do you do with that? is actually you try and get the most from the opportunities that Web3 is giving you. Is the early testing opportunity. You build things fast. It can be not an MVP, but like it can be a blueprint with the game economy descriptions, some arts, some like scenarios that you describe, and then you just try and build your community from the very first day. You try to engage people that are interested in your idea. That will actually give you a lot of very useful feedback. They will actually tell you how they want that game to work, what you really need to do to build a compelling stuff for them. And that's why you should really engage with the community from the very beginning. It's not a problem if it's like 50 people or 100 people, and then because then it gradually becomes 200, 500, 1,000. And if your idea is really good, and if you're working hard, and if you're delivering, like you show them the arts, you show them the concept, you show them the lore, you unfold the story, then eventually you find yourself with a community of a few thousand people who are ready to actually test your product, to pay for it. Of course, getting some NFTs and some perks in advance, but that's it. I would say that's the unique feature of Web3 and of blockchain gaming, and it's super valuable. And this is something that classic video gaming industry cannot afford. So I do believe that everyone who's into Web3 game development should take advantage from that and really benefit. When we talk about the community more, I'm a strong believer that the future will be conquered by the projects where the community is the most important part. Projects do have, like hard times and hype times and hard times again. If there is a good idea there, if there is a dedicated team around there, and what's super important, most important, a strong and, like dedicated and trusting community around that, that's something that will actually allow you to go through the, like the darkest of times. That's for sure. This is your main asset. This is the asset that will be the most valuable for your potential investors. This is the asset that is super valuable for your fundraising, for your finances. They're, as the slide says, they're your clients, they are your investors, they are your main key stakeholders. When you fundraise from the community, and that's the first step that many blockchain games do, because that's, like that's kind of logical. You sell some early assets, in-game assets, people do pay for them, and you use that money to fund your operations and build the game and release it. That's super logical. That's how things work these days, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But I've seen a lot of projects where the team doesn't treat community like they're clients, investors, and stakeholders. Okay, we have your money now. We don't owe you. Like we just built. We've promised you a product. We're building a product. So when we deliver, just bug off, right? I personally do find it super wrong, and that's something that we really stress on for our founders. You should never do that. You should really treat your community as the most important part of your project. And if you do that right, the community will play the most crucial role in your project success. I will not focus a lot on tech aspects, but I will just elaborate on a few things that we've found during, like working with the early stage projects, turning ideas into ventures. You should at least put some effort in thinking through the technical aspects. For example, when projects do choose the project, the blockchain for that project, what they do is like, okay, the most people are on Ethereum, but Ethereum is super expensive in terms of transaction costs, gas fees. Okay, so we're going to stick to Binance Smart Chain because a lot of people there as well, but the transaction cost is not that high. and then they build a game, and then they do realize that they've got a lot of microtransactions in their game strategy, game design, right? So that to send, you are sending some kind of a ship into an open space, and you put some add-ons on that ship, and then you need to randomize the outcome of the performance of each of those add-ons, and then like adding up to, I don't know, like 20 transactions within the smart contract. And then it shows that on Binance Smart Chain, one transaction is cheap, but added up, you need like $7 to, or like $20 to make that one big transaction, one game action, right? And that kills everything. It's, you actually need to, now you are obliged to create an economy where a player makes at least $30 to justify that $20 transaction. And that's impossible to do to many reasons. That's why like Axie Infinity have their running L2 blockchain that actually makes the transaction virtually free for them. And that's why some projects do choose less popular, but like transactions gasless and no fee transaction cost blockchains like Wax or EOS, or now a lot of projects think about Solana, whatever, a lot of good blockchains around here. But you should really think about how your game design works, what types and what amount of transaction it needs, and that should influence the decision of choosing the blockchain. It's not about this slide, but I will tell you just another hint that also a good role can be played here is the blockchain that gives you tech support and financial support. So if you manage to, you know, like we all know that Solana is Rust based and it's super expensive in development, so it's not really a good choice for the young projects. But if you manage to, you know, like receive a grant from Solana Foundation, and it actually allows you to hire those developers and build that MVP, that should be fine. So you really need to think about this, and it would be nice if you've got someone doing a business development side for you, so that can influence the decision process as well. Now I'll show you the real life example of what I'm talking about. Last year we started incubating and actually venture building as a co-founder for a sci-fi strategy game. It's called DeepMind, and it all started with the idea, you know, with sketches that we think it should be a sci-fi strategy, because when you have sci-fi, it's easier for you to invent some things. You're not strictly within some historical period, and that you can have tools like this or you cannot have tools like this. So we built the prototype. We did the business development, the marketing, the HR for the company, for the project, and then the first NFT drop was instant sold out, more than $500,000 raised, and it's currently, you know, like a separate project with its own team of more than 20 people, with a nice TVL, nice trade volume. They're developing, they're very close to their alpha and then beta launch. So that's what we did for them. And that's how we do really work with blockchain games right now. We've got a few titles already in the pipeline, and we are always open to welcome the entrepreneurs in residence with gaming ideas. And we are now expanding our team of game designers. And so welcome to Yard Hop if you are thinking about incubating a play-to-earn game and blockchain game. And as always, I'm ready to answer any questions, and my contacts are on this screen. I hope what I told you today was useful, and I'm ready for a Q&A. Thank you for your attention. Have a nice day. Bye.